Hey everybody, I'm Colin Bedell, co-founder of Queer Cosmos.
And I'm Ms. Chartreuse, the head mistress of the Venus Academy, which is the lifestyle masterclass of love.
Yes, and we are Astro Twins, Gemini Sun, Capricorn Moon, Leo Risings. Hello, duh. We met at NORWAC 2019 and the rest of our friendship was just kind of ordained. And we're making this video because yesterday, while we were getting dinner, I just had this kind of realization that so many people ask about my relationship to A Course in Miracles and Chartreuse's relationship to A Course in Miracles, because we are both students.
Amen.
Hello. And what we wanted to do was reinterpret the basic principles for you because it does have a place in modernity. It actually has, I think, a lot of clarification, particularly on more controversial issues like race and sexuality, what the word God even means to us. So we thought that we would talk to you about it rather than just another heterosexual white person talking about their spirituality, right? We thought that our identities could also provide some empowerment and clarification on those terms as well. Do you have anything to add about that?
Yes. No, that was perfect. That was perfect. We're just going to dive right in and really share about what
True Capricorn Moon style, bitch. Like, let's get to
work.
Boom. Okay.
Yeah, we've gotten so much out of it, and so I think it's really important to share and extend these ideas because ideas are grown as they are shared, and this is what we do all day, every day.
It's true.
And it is Super Soul Sunday, so we are here to share it with you.
Mercury just went into Pisces, so we're going to talk about the highest expression of universal spiritual themes as we understand it. Yeah. So the first thing we're actually going to do is just kind of tell you what our outcomes are. Yeah. Having studied A Course in Miracles since 2014, and when did you begin?
And it would be 16 when I met you.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So we're going to briefly tell you about that, and then we'll break it down. So would you like to go first?
Well, I feel like I'll share a little bit. So Colin had asked me when we met in 2016, he was like, are you familiar with A Course in Miracles? And I was like, yeah, I was doing a lot of research and I would kind of read it in like PDF form and I would see it online and it was like this endless, infinite scroll. And so, look how thick this thing is. And so I was familiar with it, but I was not necessarily a student of it, like studying it. I was more like, whoa, this is a massive wall of text and I'm just kind of scrolling forever. And Colin, being the Capricornian disciplined person that he is, was like, well, I would, maybe invite you to take on this and maybe we can do this together and explore this together and actually work at it because there is a structure and there's a method to the way that it is all put together. Yeah. And so once I actually began taking it seriously, I went back to the beginning to do the workbook lessons every single day and read the text accordingly, and it really changes your world when you're actually doing it deliberately. And the structure is actually what creates the transformation. This is not just something you read. It's not like, oh, I read the Course in Miracles. It's like, no, you practice it. You work it. So
beautiful. And what do you feel like you've acquired from your study thus far? Because you're about to reach the end of your workbook history. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what have I acquired? What I have acquired is a true quality of relationships and really understanding what relationships are, and freedom to accept and love myself and others exactly as they are. And what that actually looks like in specific terms is particularly with relationship with my parents and with my mother, and being able to truly connect with her and extend my love to her and be with her exactly as she is and not be triggered because I know the truth of who I am. And from that relationship, that's kind of like the core main relationship that I feel like that was a root cause of why I was a little bit dysfunctional in some other relationships. And from there, all of the other relationships in my world transformed, whether it was with my ex-husband or a lover or me as a mother, and even me in my friendships and in my professional world. Once your relationship with God is really intact, then you are able to connect with other people in a very profound and direct and really authentic way. And so freedom in relationships, free self-expression, knowing the truth of who I am and being able to be freely self-expressed and very authentic with others, freedom, total freedom.
Oh, so no big deal. You just got your total freedom from it.
Complete and utter freedom.
Well, I echo that. And what I also want to say is that at the very bottom of it, and for those who cannot see it, because this is in the podcast version, but the video, it says, A Course in Miracles, a foundation for inner peace. And if there's anything that I acquired from my daily study with the Course, it would be the foundation for inner peace.
Yes.
And what more do we need?
Truly.
Right? I will be very honest, the vast majority of the day, every day, I feel very peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
I feel very peaceful because what's really amazing about a thorough integration of these principles is that your life works. Your life works when you work at making your life work. Mm-hmm. And I can testify to its efficacy, and I can testify to the fact that it really has given me, just more often than not, a peaceful, joyful, grateful disposition. And it could offer that for you as well if you feel it is for you. And I think if it's for you, you know it, so give it a try. And I'm glad that Chartreuse mentioned the word God, because obviously for many people, particularly who are queer identified or who have had that language weaponized against them, we understand the kind of immediate intellectual, cultural, social rejection to that word, right? But for the purpose of this video and for the purpose of this podcast, I want you to imagine God as love only. And to the best of our capabilities, let's empty past associations we have to that word and really just see it as love. Okay, so now we're going to tell you about how we found the Course in Miracles, and I think Chartreuse should go first.
Well, like I shared, it was really something that I stumbled upon.
Of course.
2011 was like this activation year for me where I was just like diving deep into all of these different spiritual modalities. And when you shared it with me, that was when I began, that journey of actually studying and working at it and having my life actually work. And I mean, in terms of like actually finding this physical book, it was through a beautiful connection that I had with somebody, and it was just a gift that was gifted to me from that connection and really took my practice to another level. And when I actually got this copy, I chose to go back to the beginning of the workbook and start over again, because this is really a lifelong thing. And the book is so profound and so deep, and there's so much information on even one paragraph and one page. You can read something and get something new out of it every single time. So I was like, okay, well, let me go back to the beginning of this and just see what is there for me in this new realm, this new space that I'm in. And so I've started it over from the beginning, and this is something that you can really work at for the rest of your life, because there's so many different sections and segments to it. And it's just this ongoing, it's like working out. Like, am I going to stop lifting weights ever? And am I going to stop exercising? Am I going to stop working at my life? No, it's like we have to practice this. Correct. So that we have this inner peace consistently, because we go consistently into that space within, and we know that the truth of who we are is through this connection to God. And when we work at that consistently, then we have that inner peace when the stuff comes up, because we're not saying that life is some perfect utopia. I kind of feel like my life is a perfect utopia, actually. I'm not gonna lie. Miracles are actually really...
Well, it's a Course in Miracles, for God's sake. So
Truly.
If you want to have a life of miracles, you might as well study it in the curriculum set forth in 1976.
And your life just works. And
Exactly.
your life truly works. And so when things happen, it's like you're not ascribing all this extra meaning to it. It's like just something happened, and I have the tools with which to be powerfully present with whatever is so.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I found the Course in spring 2013. I was going through a really terrible breakup, and it was bad. It was my Jupiter return. It was terrible. And true full disclosure, I had probably drank an entire bottle of ZzzQuil. I couldn't sleep. And that's a part of the phenomena, right? Like when you're in that dark night of the soul and like the realization of like, oh my God, what have I done sets in, your subconscious mind doesn't let you sleep. So I was waiting for it, and I was like, oh, this isn't working, so I might as well just go on YouTube. And then the next thing I know, I find this video of a woman named Marianne Williamson, who was lecturing essentially to Oprah Winfrey. Do you know of her? Have you ever heard of Oprah? And I just was listening to Marianne speak, and I was like, who the fuck does this bitch think she is? Because that's what I think whenever she's opening her mouth.
I'm just
okay?
Like,
no, that was me. I was like, duh, right? And then I was like, who is she? And then I Googled her, and wouldn't you know, I just loved everything that I could hear and every word that she wrote. And I immediately went out and bought A Return to Love, and I have been kind of bowing at the altar of A Course in Miracles essentially ever since. And I'm so glad that I found it when I did, because it was an answered prayer. And it's funny because I just remembered this like maybe for the first time since it happened. But I remember saying to myself, like, should I pray on this? Like, I never pray. But like, maybe I should just like, God, like, I really done fucked the fuck up. So can I have like something? And then the next thing I know, Mary Ann is talking about forgiveness with Oprah Winfrey.
Ooh. So did you have any sort of religious background or upbringing when you were younger?
I was baptized Catholic, right? Because I'm a good Long Island boy. And my mother and my grandmother are Catholics. My dad kind of was just like, no, he was never born into that. So yeah, I definitely had an appreciation for the Trinitarian language, but just in non-traditional ways.
Sure.
And Long Island approaches Catholicism like very differently. Like, we love the theory, but best believe our grandmothers is still going to like, you know, pro-choice rallies and like, don't touch our gay son kind of thing. So I never had a racket against it. I really didn't until I moved to North Carolina. And then that's when I saw the ways in which religion and organized theology was weaponized against queer people. Because I had a lot of Southerners asking me questions like, you know, which says this about Leviticus and blah, 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 and all that crap. So I understand the racket, but it wasn't necessarily my story.
Gotcha.
Right? So I understand why people feel a certain way about it, which is why we wanted to talk about it, because it would be one thing if it was just, you know, another straight white person talking about God who loves you. It's a completely different when it comes from our intersectional identities.
Yes.
So that's how we found the course, and now we're going to talk to you about what the fuck it actually is. Okay?
What the fuck is the
So,
course?
would you like me to do it, or should I do it?
You can start it. You can start it off.
Sure,
yes.
I'll do the first one. So,
Okay.
in this big blue monstrosity of a book, okay, it's 3 volumes. The first one is the text. The second volume is the workbook, which is the crux of the course. It's 365 lessons, 1 for each day. And then the third is a manual for teachers. And essentially what it is it's just questions and answers that you will more than likely be asked if you decide to take this on as a lifelong study. And it has the answers set forth by the scribe, right? So the way the Course in Miracles came about was in the late 60s in New York City, actually at Columbia University uptown. And it was in the moment of just enormous cultural, racial, and global conflict, much like where we are right now, okay? And Helen Schuckman, who was a psychiatrist there, said out loud, oh man, there has to be another way. It can't just be this, it can't be this difficult when we're in the middle of assassination attempts, and Martin Luther King was just assassinated, Bobby Kennedy was just killed, we're in the throes of Vietnam. And she heard a voice tell her, this is A Course in Miracles, please take notes. She was like, I'm a psychiatrist. I know that if I hear voices in my head, that's not a good thing, right? And what do you know? She said out loud to another person who was working there, who was a colleague, his name was Bill Thetford, and she said, you'll never believe this. I heard this voice say, you know, this is A Course in Miracles, please take notes. And he was like, well, you should do it. And then over the next 10 years, they scribed 1,800 pages from a voice who did identify itself as Christ. So full disclosure again. Now, we do not mean Christ necessarily, this is what we spoke about last night at dinner, as the person who was born to a virgin, who, you know, might have turned water into wine, who the hell knows, and then, you know, was crucified at the cross and then resurrected. Yes, but not necessarily, right? So there's a little bit of nuance there, and we're going to hold space for, do we totally intellectually agree with this? We don't know. So the first volume sets forth the metaphysical principle that the workbook lessons make us study every single day.
Correct.
So it is very dense.
It's just text.
Walls of it.
Walls of text.
And it can be a lot, right? But again, like, your life works when you work at making your life work. Like, there are no quick tips and easy fixes to managing your life well. So this is why the course gives you just a very helpful curriculum to make sense of whatever kind of experiences you're in.
Yes.
So that's my interpretation. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, you did perfectly with that. I just like to demonstrate just a little bit. So the beginning part of the text is a sort of, you know, kind of read as you go. There are so many different chapters. How many chapters are in this first?
Oh God, I don't even know.
It is
30?
like 30-something
30-something
chapters, and then...
Oh, and I just thought too, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
There's no wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
So if you get the book and you're like, I don't want to read the first volume, can I just go right into the workbook? You could.
You could do
like
that.
there are people who start with the workbook and then read the text, every 2 or 3 pages. In order to prove to myself that I really wanted to do it, I read the first volume before I did workbook lesson number 1. Do you have a particular technique? Because our mutual friend Taylor, if she's listening, hi Taylor, she had to ask like how do we even get started? Like what's your suggestion to people who want to get started?
I really like the concept of reading the text and doing the workbook at the same time, because you can read all of this stuff in the text in the front. It's like you can read however much you feel, maybe a page or 2. Like for me, I'm just a big reader, so I would read like a whole entire section just because I can't get enough of it. But it doesn't matter. You can even get enough out of one paragraph or even a sentence. There's no one right or wrong.
Yeah. There was one I read yesterday which is so beautiful. In him is heaven, meaning whoever we are with, in them, in him is heaven. Like, come on, that's just so gorgeous. So yeah, there's really no wrong way to begin the curriculum. And you know what? If your voice is telling you, like, hey, actually go in chronological order, do that. If the voice is telling you, no, actually do it concurrently, like Chartreuse was saying, you can absolutely do that as well.
Yeah, you can do whatever you feel. And
Yes.
so from the text in the first section, the second section is the workbook. And so this is 365 lessons. And so this one is I am the light of the world. Every day there's a new mantra.
What would your life look like if you believed and then made decisions based on the fact that you are the light of the world?
You are.
You are.
This is what I tell my people like every day. I'm just like, you are the light of the world, bitch. Fuck you do it. Fuck you think you are. The
Right.
light of the world.
Right.
Love created me like itself.
Excuse me, Course in Miracles, Jesus.
You're saying that love created me like itself.
So what am I doing acting anything other than lovely? I don't know, acting stupid.
So with the workbook, every workbook lesson will kind of tell you and guide you on how to work with it. And so in the beginning it'll say, okay, well the first one is this thought, my thoughts
These
do not
thoughts mean nothing or
yes,
something.
these thoughts do not mean anything. And you're going to repeat it during certain intervals throughout the day.
And there are apps actually that remind you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the name of that app that
Course
you
in
shared?
Miracle Reminders app. So if you
Yes.
really love it and you can forget it throughout the day, there are apps that tell you what the workbook lesson is, and it boop texts you and
Yes.
sends it to you.
Yeah, and you can even like set something in your calendar.
Yep.
For me,
Reminders.
sometimes when I remember, I will like write it on my wrist by my tattoo for the day in like permanent marker, and then I'll just like look down and I'll keep it in my vision for the day. But every different workbook lesson will kind of tell you the frequency, how often, every hour. There was one day when it was like almost like every 15 minutes.
Which is, if you can't do that, that's fine. Go at your own pace. Remember, this is not designed to be a lifelong curriculum, so like just do what you can as you go along, but just attempt, just try.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's really nice to keep in mind, I am the light of the world every hour of the day. It
Absolutely.
can't hurt you to remind yourself that.
No, it cannot. And also, after you get the workbook lesson,
Yeah.
you should meditate for at least 5 minutes a day. So
Yes.
the reason why this is such a helpful curriculum is because it essentially trains you, and it says it in the first text, to walk this earth with the thoughts of heaven. And that cannot be done without a serious meditation practice, right? Because we are reading divine channeled information, and what we need is a meditation practice to take it from abstract intellectual thought here and woof, bring it right back down to our emotional nervous system and application, right? Because we know, hey, love is great, right? But how often do we actually make decisions based on that?
Act.
If we're not meditating every day, the answer is probably not as frequently as we should.
Yeah.
So the curriculum gives us the exact lessons, and then we just need to meditate it on 5 to 10 minutes a day. In fact, it says in the workbook lesson, I think 172, that 5 minutes spent with the Holy Spirit is enough to guarantee His control of your thought forms throughout the day. So that's really the practice of it, right? You read the workbook lesson, think about it, meditate on it, and then you just begin your day in a completely different emotional tenor. And it's just, it changes every course of everything. It's just unbelievable.
And people want to talk about walking meditations or moving meditations, and all of that is cute and stuff, but you need to sit down, shut the fuck up, close your mind, go within.
Absolutely. No.
There's no, you can't substitute being in the silence and going within for anything else. Now, there are ways to be mindful in everything that you do, and you can do that after you've taken the time to spend time with the Spirit and connect with that which is greater than you within yourself.
And do it first thing in the morning if you can. None of this, I do it at night shit, because then you're just going to bed. You're not meditating, you're going to bed, right? There is a difference. And the idea here is that when you do it first thing in the morning, you are downloading a higher sense of information and divine wisdom, which then you extend throughout the day, which then helps because when someone triggers you, you are not going to be so emotionally reactive.
Right.
Whereas who the hell's triggering you, when you're meditating before you go to bed and then sleeping?
Right.
Nobody. Like, all the opportunities you needed for your peace of mind, you just fucking blew because you're doing it at 9:30 p.m. It's just like, where is the logic here? Hello?
Yeah. There's a truth to the fact that it is really an ordering of your day. And I will tell you that I have a little crack on the front of my bumper, and that is because I did not order my day. So when people ask me about it, it's like, that's what happens. You don't order your day. Okay? I was like rushing out to get my daughter to daycare or something and just like scrambling. And I was like, you know what? If I had just taken those 5 minutes, and I would be able to breathe and be like, so fucking what? She's in preschool. It's okay if she's 2 minutes late.
Right, chill.
Chill. But it's like, it really, once you order your day, you've grounded the start of your flow in the divine, and everything just unfolds and magnetizes and reflects, and the world is brighter, and people respond to you differently because you are coming from love, and you are extending that, and that is what you are.
You're coming to give.
Because you cultivated it from within yourself.
You're coming to give. You're not out there hungry to receive. You're just like, hey, I'm here to be the light in the world. So let me go ahead and do that, okay? Because I have shit to do, and then the universe makes sure that you have all the context, opportunities, situations, events, and relationships for you to be the light of the world, okay? And now, on that note, we're going to transition into talking about ways in which we can reconcile the principles of A Course in Miracles and this kind of, necessary record from the past related to organized religion and theology in today's world, particularly on identity politics.
Yes.
And the way that we're going to go ahead and do that is by giving you the foundation of enlightenment, essentially. And it says that enlightenment begins when you identify from body identification to spirit identification. It's a shift from body to spirit. And that's why we figured we should talk about sexuality, and we figured we should talk about race in relationship to that context. And Chartreuse, I would be honored if you would lead that conversation.
So the Course in Miracles has truly solidified my understanding of my identity, true identity, as a spirit being and not the body. Now this is maybe a little bit easier for me because my identities are so intersecting. And as a Black woman, I'm also Zambian, but I was born in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, but I've spent time living in melanated countries and in the Caribbean, and I've been all over. And what I've truly found is that no place on this world actually feels like home, like true home, like maybe the Midwest and Chicago kind of does, because I'm used to this place, but truly the Course has helped me to get to the core, true root of who I am, which is beyond the body, because wherever you go, there you are. And when you are seeing your brother as anything other than the spirit, then we're almost enforcing the sense of separation. And to see ourselves as spirit is really the unifying core truth of who we are. And as a melanated woman, that has really given me true freedom to feel like I can come and go as I please and really truly see the world and the globe as my oyster and my footstool, and really be free, because I know that who I am and what this body is really just my ministry. It is my calling and my path for this lifetime, but it is not the core, true, total identity of who I am.
Do you think that it's given you tools to navigate power structures, to navigate institutionalized racism, misogyny? Do you think it's helped you with that or complicate it?
Yeah, it really has, because at the core, I know that anything that is happening is really more of a trigger to my own inner awakening. So if something is showing up in my direct reality, instead of being reactionary to this outside thing, it always brings me back into focusing inward. What is the lesson here for me? What is this interaction here to teach me about myself?
Beautiful.
And, we're not denying that systemic racism and all of these atrocities that have happened across the globe have actually happened, but it's more of I'm not here to beg for somebody else to see my humanity or to there's not even one way to be Black. Like, there's not even one way to, like, when people have all these different identities, there's not one way for them to be self-expressed. So truly what it really comes down to is that at the core of all of us, we are spirit beings, all having these experiences and interacting with one another, and the core truth of who we are is love, and anything beyond that is really just some kind of role that can be changed. And even like as a mother, or as a, when you look at your career and all these different identities and these different hats that we wear, all of them can be changed and shifted at an instant. So anything that is fleeting, the body is this fleeting thing, but our spirits go on forever. And I truly identify with the inner core spirit of who I am.
And that inner core spirit you could liken to your astrological natal chart, right? So it does give you a sense of vocabulary. I mean, what would we do, and who would we be, and what would we say, and what would we collaborate on if we all saw ourselves as just like unlimited spiritual beings because astrology says so.
Truly.
You know, and one of the other contexts in the course is that it says you are heir to the laws of whatever world you ascribe to. So there's the physical and the non-physical, the spiritual world. So if you are heir to the laws of the physical world, yes, you are a body, and so you will be forever at the effect of chaos, randomness, separation, emotional violence, despair, and suffering. Or you could decide, okay, I'm willing to shift my self-identification from body to spirit, and thus I am heir to the laws of the spiritual world, which directly repudiate scarcity and comparison. Right? According to the spiritual path, there's more than enough to go around for everybody, and everybody has a specific function to fulfill.
Yes.
So it's not up to us to monitor what the hell everyone else is doing, right? Because no, you have something you need to do.
Right.
And when you do it, would it be reasonable to assume that the universe wouldn't rise to its highest level of maximum possibility to make manifest the chart that it gave you? Of course not, right? So that's why it's important to also shift from body to spirit, because when we do, it's truly like all of nature conspires to help us sing our
Absolutely.
song. It's beyond, and we experience it every day.
Every single day. Our lives are true living proof that we are limited by nothing but our thoughts and our beliefs and our perspectives, and whatever is happening out there has no effect on our ability to be grounded in spirit and still take action and be the miracle workers that we're called to be.
Amen. That was beautiful. And also, how many times have we called each other to be like, bitch, you will not fucking believe what just happened? Like, I almost have to tell Chartreuse, like, it's beyond. Like, this is truly a course in fucking miracles. This is not a course in taking out the garbage. This is not a course in, like, washing the dishes. Like, every single day, we can testify to miracles. So, that was so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's our hope that anybody who is experiencing just the effects of the worldly egoic body identified system can feel just a little bit of peace and a little bit of shift and a little bit of encouragement to know that if it happens to us, it's not because these laws are personal. These are impersonal principles of the universe, and so they can be made manifest in your life as well.
Yes.
And is there anything you'd like to add about that?
I would like to add also about this idea about like behavior and what we truly are. So as I'm saying that everybody, the truth of who all of us is love. That is true for everybody, and there are zero exceptions to that. So when I say we're supposed to think the thoughts of love and really act as love, we're also supposed to see that in every single body. So you can say everybody except for that person in the White House, but that's not authentic, because at the core of who every one of us are is the truth and is the light. And like we were saying, we each have our own ministries and our assignments and what we're supposed to do. And the power is not in saying that, oh my God, this person is acting in ways that I don't like, but the power is in, I know who the fuck I am, so I'm going to do what I'm called to do to rise to the occasion and be the truth and actually operate in the sphere of influence that I have, regardless of what other people are doing that I might not like.
And that was so beautiful. And to be clear, that's not to say that we're just going to, forgive anybody who does something inconceivable around us, right? Because there is a difference between a judgment and a description. We're not judging in terms of like, who do you think you are, blah, blah. It's just describing the level of behavior. There is no question that American democracy has been overthrown by a almost fascist, authoritative regime.
Yes.
And each and every one of us have the possibility to self-actualize beyond the effects of a fear-based, separated world. And in so doing, do we become the light that casts away the darkness effortlessly. The first principle in A Course in Miracles is there is no order of difficulty in miracles. All we need to do is be the miracle workers we are capable of, because what would the world look like if each and every one of us self-actualized to our most loving potential?
On an individual basis. And when you work at your life as an individual, you create this quantum ripple effect.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
maybe not all of us are called to be the president and to do that, but we're all called, we all have a gift, and sometimes you can look, okay, well, this is the body that I have, and so here I am working with women in particular and helping them through relationships based off of what I've experienced. That is my ministry. And everybody has their calling, and it's really about hearing the voice for God, and that is what a teacher of God is, anybody who hears it.
Beautiful. And I work for and with queer theory and queer audiences primarily. And it's always important for me to remind my clients that at the end of the day, our queerness is not the highest level of our authentic expression, right? Like, of course, it textures who we are, and it absolutely confirms and kind of explores in the vast majority of our relationships and our life experience, but at the end of the day, it is not the fullest expression of who we are, because we are not body identified, we are spirit identified. And I think it's really important right now for us to explore spirituality, even by using the word God. And that's something we wanted to talk about here as well, because we understand how it has been weaponized against our people, and we don't want to necessarily invalidate that, but at the same time, we really want to know we are in the midst of a spiritual crisis, and we have to start actually recognizing, okay, that might have happened in the past when we were children, but we're adults now, so can we have adult conversations about what the semantics of God actually is? And in a TED Talk that Marianne actually gave, I thought this was so beautiful, she essentially said, related to God is love and will means thought. So God is love, will is thought, loving thought. And when we say let God's will be done, what we're saying is may all loving thought for all living things, past, present, and future, now occur here. And when we do that, we are working with a power that is in us but not of us, right? That harmonizes and attracts all self-correcting and self-organizing things to lift us to our highest creative possibility in this moment. That's what let God's will be done means. And I just think that's magnificent, right? Because if all we need to do is just incorporate loving thought into our minds, that will restore the celestial order within our thinking. And then we are once again learning to walk this earth with the thoughts of God. And would it be reasonable to assume that you wouldn't find success on the other side? No. Right, so that's the thing. Something to consider. Do you have any?
And when it comes to Jesus, I talk to Course in Miracles Jesus.
That's what we call him, because we're like, it's not the typical Christian Jesus. It's, we gotta say Course in Miracles Jesus, right?
And when it comes to Jesus, I love calling on Course in Miracles Jesus because the Christ consciousness represents the alternative. So what is taught in the Course is that Jesus does not have anything that we don't have, and he does not have any capabilities that we don't have. He just doesn't have anything else. And so we are all gifted. And so when we're saying there is one Son of God, we are all it, because there is only one of us here.
And that's the Trinitarian system that the Course explores, but once again in non-traditional ways.
Right.
So it does say Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? So Father you can liken to the universe, right? This is the all-knowing, infinite intelligent power system, right? And then the Holy Spirit, you could say, is the intuition. Like, what's this information that we're getting, right? And the Course in Miracles calls the Holy Spirit the perception corrector and the bridge between our highest and our lowest self. So when we follow that instruction, we move away from our scarcity comparison and just the parts of us that are not our most loving self to self-actualize our most loving self. And when it talks about the sonship, traditional Christians would say, oh, God only had one son and it was Jesus, right? Whereas the Course in Miracles says, no, God only had one son and we're all it. So it does, once again, use a masculine pronoun. It does say like he, him, his, brother, right? But it's related to the fact that we are all one, okay? And to make a gender variation would then imply a separation.
True.
So
another thing I like with the masculine pronouns, and that was something that I actually also kind of came back to reconcile for myself, because I was just like, well, why can't God be a woman? You know what, God, I see divinity in women, yes, and the goddesses are out here and truly real. But what I truly love to understand when I think about using the masculine energy for talking about God and the Holy Spirit is that I am here as a miracle worker, as a receptive vessel. So I am the faucet, but I am not the water. I am the lamp, but God is the current. I am receiving. And as the receptive energy, that's feminine, that's receiving. And the giving energy is this masculine, universal God force energy that is pouring into me, and I'm receiving that, and I'm channeling that out.
Beautiful.
That
Beautiful.
works, you know.
Beautiful. And I think why it's necessary to really discuss these things now is because there's an enormous amount of Capricorn energy in the cosmos for the next 4 or 5 years. And what this is really asking us to remember is that the very popular kind of like spiritual sampling platter bullshit is not gonna fucking fly anymore. What we need is very rigorous, authentic, disciplined spiritual seekers who pick a fucking lane, okay, and then drive like nobody's fucking business on it, okay? Because this ersatz version of like self-care and like, you know, at the end of the day, choose yourself. I fucking saw this Instagram meme that absolutely drives me nuts. And it was like, if you have to leave the country and change your phone number and do all of this and blah, 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 that's called self-care. I'm like, that's fucking self-annihilation. What the fuck are you talking about? Self-care, my ass. That is self-annihilation. Jesus Christ, did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God, it's garbage. And it's just like, if you have to basically completely destroy your life, it's called self-care. It's according to who? Like, wake up. Jesus fucking Christ, I'm so sick and tired of hearing it. You know, it's like, seriously, let's get disciplined, honey.
Yes.
Like, what we need is a serious spiritual path.
Yes.
And what's ridiculous is because, fortunately, there are people who are paying attention to the kind of more narcissistic, self-referential spiritual seekers. That's because that's the ersatz version.
Yeah.
That's the version that, you know, doesn't require a lot of intellectual and emotional discipline.
Yeah.
So we got to actually do it so that we're not surrounded by the fucking garbage that's real popular in our crowd today.
Right.
So if you want to be the light in the world, that's what you got to do, is like really find a source material, find a discipline, and stick to it.
And it just makes it so easy because it's just
My God.
set up.
It's
set
what's your
up.
excuse?
It is a structure, and the structure is what creates true freedom. There is no freedom without structure and a container.
Exactly.
And a certain discipline of something that you do every single day. Do you work out one day and you stop working out and you're just like, oh yeah, I reached my goals and I'm done for life? No, this is a discipline and a discipleship.
Exactly. So thank you for listening to us on that, and I apologize if I got really aggressive about it, but you know, it's just like
The Capricorn shit
I
comes
know.
out,
Oh
it's
my
all
God, I get so angry. I really do. Okay, so that's that. And then the last thing we're sort of going to say is basically what it has done to us when we understand what our relationship to God does. Like, what does it actually do for us when our relationship to God, remember, relationship to love, what does it provide us? Go ahead.
Provides me with the ability to come from love always. And coming from love has nothing to do with another person. It has nothing to do with anybody else's response. Has nothing to do with anybody but me and God. It has given me true freedom from the grasping and from the desperation and from the, oh, I'm not understood and this and that. I need nothing but me and my relationship with Source, internal inner peace and knowing, and the ability to truly connect with others without any kind of over agenda or this need to please or this need to be a certain way or show up a certain way in order to feel worthy. It just helps you to really affirm the truth of who we are, and beyond that, it's you need nothing, and everything is totally just magnetized and flows to you because you're moving through the divine space constantly.
That was beautiful. I would like to say it's hard to follow that up with a brief history lesson, because before the wars, right? It's true. Wait, I know.
Here we go.
I know. Okay, I know. I love history. Okay. Before the wars, humanity kind of lived in communities, right? We had a real communal system, right? So everybody was assigned. They knew what they needed to do, right? And there was a real strong place of religion. There was a real strong sense of family network. We had a lot of belonging there, right? But we didn't have a whole lot of freedom. But everybody knew where they needed to go and what they needed to do and what they needed to say and who they needed to marry and what they needed to do afterwards, right? Then after the wars, there was just an enormous amount of like personal and social revolution and liberation, thank God, because it's done an enormous amount to advance equality and conversations on race, gender, and class, although of course we have a very long way to go. And now we are in a kind of very interesting space insofar as we all have a lot of freedom, but not a lot of belonging, right? And what I know to be true is that when we don't have a whole lot of belonging and a whole lot of freedom, we then bring this free-floating existential despair that we once used to have on communities and social networks and with religion. It gave us belonging and continuity and meaning and attachment. And then we put it on the fucking neck of another person, right? And what happens is they become our soulmate, and then we assume that that person is going to give us that which an entire village used to do and that which the entire divine used to do. So we look for one special person out there who's going to give us transcendence, give us meaning, give us self-actualization, give us all this. And hello, that person's just as fucked up as we are, right? So what are we doing, right? And whereas if we actually said, okay, so all I need to do is spiritualize my relationship with love and God, and that will actually give me belonging and freedom. Yes. And that's what it's done for me. I have absolutely no hunger for any kind of codependent relationship. I am so good being right by myself. I have no appetite to, I hope this person gives me what I want, because if I don't get it, then I'm going to be really upset and I'm going to grasp and I'm going to reach for it, I'm going to do all this. No, I'm just like, you can come and go, and please, I don't give a rat's fat fucking ass, because at the end of the day, I belong to me, all right? And I belong to me because of my relationship with God. And that's all I need to worry about. And that is actually a very magnetic frequency, right? Because I'm not desperate. I don't have an emotional contraction. I don't need anything. It's exactly what you said. And I think it's really interesting to note that historical context, because, yeah, the divine, we never talked about soulmates before World War I. That only came about in the collusion of romantic consumer culture and the mass exodus of people from organized religion and kind of theology. Yes. And then we take all these expectations and put them in one person.
Yes.
And that is why most of us are really engaging in dysfunctional relationships, because it's just, we're setting it up to fail in that way. Yes. So that's what it's done for me.
I love that! And it's really a demonstration when you were saying about how the whole community gave that to you. And this is what I truly have.
You do.
And so it's like I have all of these different, beautiful, rich, gorgeous relationships. Yes. And my daughter 11, she's 5 years old. Her understanding of family is so expansive and so big because
you're her mother.
Because we are all the Son of God, and we are all responsible for one another, and yes. We're all connected, and there's no need to put this all on one person to be in this dance of, I need this person to be this way, and I'm really angry that they're not acting this way, and I need to get this from somebody. It's like,
that's not sexy.
No,
nobody has ever called their friends, their family, whatever, and been like, oh my God, you will not believe it. I just met the most needy, controlling, codependent, like really demanding partner. I think I'm going to ask him out for a second date.
Right. It doesn't work.
No, smarten up, everybody. Like, that shit ain't fucking sexy. What's sexy is just having this attitude of just like, yeah, I'm here, you're here. Like, what's good? Do you want to play? Because I got enough to go around. Do you want a fucking piece of it?
Right.
But if you don't, then get to stepping. Like, get out of here.
I'll be all right.
We're gonna be all right.
I'll be all right.
I must have spelled. Okay. That's what the universe gets for me to
When we start flexing.
I don't want to start flexing. It's like, oh yeah, you're gonna fucking pull up your chip. Come on. Anywho.
Yes.
So those were the notes that we really wanted to kind of explore, right?
Yes.
So the definition of God, how we examine it in our sexuality, especially if you're a queer identified person, when that word was really weaponized against you, which is so dysfunctional and so traumatic, that's obviously not what its intention is. And then how the Course in Miracles helps you identify your relationship to your identity as a Black woman, right?
Yes.
We talked about how we found A Course in Miracles. We talked about what we've gotten out of it.
Yes.
And if it's for you and you're vibrating with it, that's great. Give it a try. I think it won't be a waste of your time, I can tell you that. Even if you do the workbook lessons for 2 weeks, it will not be a waste of your time.
Yes.
And it is our prayer that it gives you peace, that it gives you clarification and self-awareness and relationship health and many miracles as it has for us.
Yes.
And just know that you're not alone.
Yes.
And I would really love for people who are on the fringe of race, gender, and class to just, let's start talking about God a little bit more. Why not?
All day long.
All day long. Because it's love.
It is. God is love, and that's really all that we need to be speaking about. When we can come from love in every interaction, you speak to the best in others, and you will see that amplified and reflected to you tenfold. You'll be like, I just have all the love in the world. It's almost overwhelming how much. And I will never say overwhelming because it can never be too much. But when you stand in there, it's awe.
A Course in Miracles calls it a state of grace.
It's true.
It's true. It's just that no words can enter there. Why? Because we experience it, and it's just belief and words and rationalistic symbolism. It has no place in the divine. It really doesn't, even though that's what we did here. But hopefully, it could provide you some peace of mind.
Yes.
And I hope it gives you everything that it did for us and more. And we thank you for watching and thank you for listening in. That's all I have to say. Do you have anything to add?
That's all. That is all. Love is all there is.
Yes. So let's say the let God's will be done one more time. Let all loving thought for all living things, past, present, and future, now occur here. Amen.
Amen.
Yay!